So I've been playing piano professionally in bands for about 6 years. I've played in at least 10 different bands or projects, and I've played maybe over 100 to maybe 150 live shows and live performances with different bands. And so I wanted to share my experience of what it's like playing the piano in a professional band and on a stage and things like that. Okay, because maybe you want to know what it's like to play piano in a band. Well, the first thing that I'm going to say is that you're not really playing the piano in a band. What you're really playing in a band, or at least in my case, is you're playing the keys. You're playing the keyboard, right? Now, the thing with the keyboard is that the piano is encompassed within the keyboard. That's why my channel is called Unlock the Keyboard, because the keyboard, as you can see here below, we're looking at a keyboard below. We're looking at two different keyboards here. We're not looking at a piano. A piano is the big wooden instrument in the living room, in the lounge, right? In the hotel lobby. It's the instrument we love. And it's the first instrument that most of us connected with as pianists and as keyboard players, right? But the keyboard itself is the part of the piano that we interact with and that we play. Now, the reason why we play the keyboard in bands is because most of the time, probably about 95% of the time, it's actually impractical and almost impossible to actually play the piano in a professional band. Unless you have someone who can actually, move a piano onto stage, or maybe there's already a piano there on stage or in the venue. Maybe, and it depends on the band, and it depends on kind of like the style, but most of the time you'll be playing a keyboard because it's really hard to move a piano, but it's really easy to move a keyboard, okay? So that's actually gear that you're able to move from your home space to the practice room to actually practice and rehearse with the band and with the group, and then eventually take the keyboard onto stage, right? When you're actually playing shows with that band in a live context. Right? Because you can't move a piano there, okay? So that's the first thing that you need to know about playing piano in a band. You're actually playing the keyboard, okay? You're playing the keys. Now, that's what I've dedicated my whole teaching practice on, this fundamental idea that if you learn the keyboard itself, you can play not just the piano, but you can play all types of keyboard instruments. You can play the electric Rhodes piano, you can play the organ, you can play synthesizers. Why is that? Because all of these different types of instruments and different types of sounds, they all use the same keyboard. Okay, so the whole premise of Unlock the Keyboard and Unlock the Keyboard Pro and all of the things that you can access there, the pathway system that I've created there, if you check out the link, it's all founded on that fundamental idea that if you unlock the keyboard, you can unlock infinite possibilities, right? Endless possibilities. There's a reason why they're called the keys, because keys unlock doors. And there is so many doors that you can unlock with the keyboard. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching the keyboard and helping my students unlock the keyboard, because I know the endless possibilities. Okay, and you can already see I'm getting so excited because I love talking about this stuff and I love teaching it, because I honestly don't think it's taught enough that actually the keyboard is ridiculously powerful. Okay, it's way more than just the piano. Now, if you just want to play the piano, that's fine. The keyboard itself has the piano in it. Granted, a lot of keyboards, the piano sound on the keyboard can sometimes be a little bit fake, a little bit artificial, and it won't feel like a real piano, okay? Because keyboards, they aren't real pianos. The keyboard itself is it's a different type of instrument in the sense of how it's actually made and how it's constructed. Keyboard creators try their best to recreate the feeling and the sound and the touch of a real piano. And in some cases, they get very close. But in a lot of cases, they don't get close. Anyway, that's the fourth point. That's logistics and gear. We're going to get to that in a second. But I just want to keep talking about the second point here. These first 2 points, that you're actually playing the keys. Okay? So this means several different things. A lot of the time when you're playing the keys in a band, yes, there are endless possibilities, and that's really fun and exciting for us as keyboard players, right? We get to explore different sounds. We get to explore different sonic universes, literally. Like, if you can play the piano, you can also apply those same piano skills to explore Rhodes electric piano, to explore synth pads and just different sounds and what they can do and how they can shape the music and the different textures, and like there's literally so much that you can do. And keyboards themselves, they have different knobs and different parameters, right? Whereas the piano, it doesn't have this. A keyboard has different different functions where, for example, you can turn up the reverb and you can make the piano sound really big. You can alter the tone. So there's a lot that you can actually do with a keyboard. That's why it's so powerful. I've actually got a full keyboard and piano guide. If you don't have a keyboard, I've created a whole guide in Unlock the Keyboard that you can check out. There's a 7-day free trial. You could just sign up for the free trial and check out the guide. And if you're not interested in anything else, then that's fine. I've literally created all of these resources to help you and help all of my students unlock the keyboard. So you're more than welcome to check that out if you're interested. But essentially, keyboards are really powerful, and there's a lot you can do. However, that can also be the biggest problem, in that sometimes when you're playing the keys in a band, the other musicians can almost expect that you can do lots of different things on the keys. It's almost an expectation of a keyboard player to do different things. For example, if you're playing in a covers band, the guitarist is just playing the guitar part, right? Whereas the keyboard player might be playing the organ part, and might be playing the string part, and the horn part, and the piano part, and the electric piano part. So there's actually a lot more expected of a keyboard player in a professional setting. So actually the bar is much higher, the standard is much higher, and it takes a little bit more work. There's more expected of you as a keyboard player, generally. Now, you don't have to lean into that. By the same token, because there's endless possibilities, you almost have to find your own style, your own approach to the keys. For example, in my case, a lot of my friends and collaborators and the musicians who know me know my sound to be mostly the Rhodes electric piano and the acoustic piano sound. And occasionally I'll add pads and strings. But generally speaking, 90% of the time, I'll be playing kind of electric piano and the piano itself on the keyboard, of course, right? And that's really fun. So that's what it's like playing piano in a band. You'll probably you'll be playing a keyboard, and that's going to allow you to manipulate the sound and create your own tone and style. And you can find your own style. You can blend sounds. This goes into the keyboard, right? There's so much to talk about here, and I'm so excited to start talking about this kind of stuff, because genuinely, like, there's so many possibilities. But that's what it's like playing in a band. Now, also, because of that, it's really important for the keyboard player in a band to find his place, to find your place in a band and in the music, because the thing is with the keyboard is there's so many, like, it can be a very dense sound that you create, right? We've got 10 fingers and we can stretch them across the keys and we can create a very dense sound. And when you're playing with a band, it's actually completely different to playing solo piano, because when you're playing solo piano, everything rides on you. You're playing the rhythm, the harmony, and the melody. You're creating the texture, the atmosphere, the ambience. You're doing everything. Whereas in a band, you've got the drummer holding down the rhythm. You've got the bass holding down the rhythm and the kind of like a melody in the low register. You've got the vocalist kind of writing about here, right? Writing about this range of the piano. See, around there, up here, right? You've got the vocalist. You've got a guitarist, maybe doing some melodic stuff. And so it's really important for the keyboard player to find. You got to find your place in the music. You can't be approaching your playing like you're doing solo piano, unless unless the song calls for it, unless the performance calls for it, and there's a section for that. But generally speaking, less is more. When you got to kind of play less. That's what it's like playing in a band. You have to find your place. Whereas if you put too much in the music, it can get messy, and it can actually subtract from the music. It can make it sound a little bit chaotic and all over the place. And you don't want to, like, for example, in a band, the singer is the most important thing. That's not entirely true for every band. Like, obviously, we're talking about the arts here, artistic expression. Like, different bands have different approaches, but generally speaking, the way that I always like to think of it when I'm playing with a singer is that we don't want to override the singer. We need the singer to stand out in the band, right? And it's more that we're accompanying the singer. So it's a different approach to actually playing the piano and to playing the keys, okay? So you gotta... That's what it's like to play the piano and the keys in a band. You gotta approach playing differently. You gotta approach writing your part differently. So by that token, it's really good to have improvisational skills and creative skills. Being able to change your part, being able to arrange for the piano. If you don't know how to do this, you don't have improvisation skills or creative skills on the keyboard or the piano. That's why I created Unlock the Keyboard. It's all based on improvisation and actually developing the skill set that will allow you to express yourself creatively and arrange and compose and produce with the keyboard. Okay, so if you're interested, check it out. It's also like a video game, okay? It's really fun, it's engaging, and yeah, I made it to literally help you unlock the keyboard. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about logistics and gear, which I kind of already covered at the start of the video, but that's one of the things you need to realize with playing in a band is that there's logistics involved and there's gear involved. Okay, so you actually need to get gear. You need to have a working stand. If you're playing in a band, you need to have a stand to put your keyboard on that's going to be durable and that's going to hold the keyboard up, right? The last thing you want, I've seen videos of this where like the stand just collapses and it was like at a school performance, the keyboard just fell down, things like this. You don't want that to happen, so you need your gear to be very solid. Likewise, it's unfortunate that a lot of keyboards kind of sound not that good. The sounds that you get from a lot of keyboards from kind of like the beginner to intermediate range in terms of price. So for example, we're talking New Zealand dollars here, from like $500 up to even about $3,000, that range. A lot of those keyboards, in my own experience, the sounds have been not the best, not my favorite. It wasn't until I got the Nord Stage 3, which is like a really pro level keyboard. It's this really nice red one you might have seen. That I paid $6,000 for that, and that was the first keyboard that I actually played, and I'm like, this feels and sounds good, and the piano tone is really good. Feels like a piano. I love this thing. And so if you want to play professionally in bands, and you're actually going up on stages and stuff like that, you want to have a good sounding keyboard, and you might actually have to invest some money in that, okay? So that's definitely something to think about. And the logistics as well. For example, the standard piano size is 88 keys. By the way, I'm making this on Piano Day. Happy Piano Day, 88 keys. Day 88, epic. That's crazy. But because it's 88 keys, you're going to need a case for that. And the case is bigger than the keyboard so that the keyboard can fit in it. And so the case might be huge, and it's sometimes hard to move that thing around. And so you have to think about this, because if you're going to get to the venue, you might need a car. So if you don't have a car, that's going to be a problem. You might need a smaller keyboard, a smaller case, something that you can actually maybe wear as a backpack kind of thing. You're going to need a lead. Okay, so there's certain tech involved, like leads to plug into amps, right? You need to know if you're playing live on stages, knowing how that stuff works. This is a whole rabbit hole. This is a whole can of worms, but I'll leave the video there. That's kind of a little bit of a taste of what it's like to play the piano in a band. Again, you're actually playing the keys. Now, that's just my experience. A lot of people do play actually piano in a band, maybe in like a jazz trio thing where the piano is there at the venue, and that's awesome. Right? But I wanted to talk about the keyboard specifically because that's my experience, okay? So I'll leave the video there. Hopefully this was informative and you're really excited to learn the keyboard and unlock it. Subscribe to the channel for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.